everybody. I hope you all are doing well. I was planning on opening up the day with some some news about Bloomberg and Bernie and my thoughts there, but that's going to have to wait a second because I saw a video that was very troubling to me on the Hill Rising with Crystal Ball and Sagar. So I want to preface this by saying I do have a lot of respect for Crystal Ball. I think she's done some great work in the world of leftist populism, and I do believe that she is a breath of fresh air from the normalcy of the mainstream media. I do believe that she has her heart, for the most part, in the right place. And I do believe that she has done a great job. Her and Sagar both have done a great job of making sure that people have voices, even uplifting some indie media and some, part-time indie media people. By part-time indie media, I mean they're only indie media when they want to raise money, but not when it's time to take corporate money. But that's a different discussion for a different day. But the work they have done, and me personally, just being a Tulsi Gabbard surrogate, even them going out of their way to not only give Tulsi a voice, before and after debates, but even combating a lot of the smears that were being lobbed against her when the race first started. So I do have a lot of respect for her, and it is out of that respect that we are going to have this conversation. Okay. Crystal Ball this morning suggested that Bernie Sanders should pick Elizabeth Warren to win the white suburban vote. Okay. I don't even know where to start here. I don't even know where to start here. First of all, offering Warren the VP spot would literally lead to Bernie being JFK. So there's that, right? There's that reality. I don't care what anybody says. Our country has had zero problem committing political assassinations. I don't. It's like a norm for our country at this point, especially against revolutionaries. Um, but despite that, we don't even have to talk about the fact that it's horrible strategy, and Trump would eat her alive. We don't even have to talk about that part yet. We don't even have to talk about the fact that, let's be honest, Warren hasn't even solidly won the white suburban vote. And a lot of white suburban people, more than had expected, still have gone to Bernie Sanders. It's just the boomer white suburban area just doesn't like Bernie. A lot of it has to do with the mainstream media coverage that they give him, right? So we don't going to talk about that. But Crystal, you have been one of the most notable progressives on Twitter, on your show, for the whole last 2 weeks, bragging and boasting about how well Bernie is doing amongst Latino and black voters, touting his support, which he is dominating, by the way, amongst young Latino and black voters. He is. He's dominating pretty clearly there. And that's largely owed to Nina and the people he has on the ground. But Krista has been one of the main ones who has been talking about this in celebration of Bernie Sanders. Because, well, how is he going to convince other black voters to vote for him and other people of color to vote for him unless you talk about how over and over again how well you are doing or your favorite candidate is doing in that area. But see, you say this as if and I remember, cause I've been, I follow you, I follow all the progressive journalists out there, and I do remember uh, seeing you tweet and get boosted as you champion black issues more than damn near any other progressive. Uh, Sarcasm, but that's what it would seem like. I mean, for 2-3 weeks straight, while we were trying to convince the world that Bernie should get the black vote in South Carolina, get the Latino vote in Nevada, California, Texas. Uh, y'all have been nonstop talking about racial issues. Okay, and I can respect that because it's not like you were lying about these issues. But here's my problem. Here's my problem. How do you, in good conscience, talk about issues involving race that you were seemingly concerned with so much 2 weeks ago, that you were seemingly so concerned with in regards to boosting Bernie. In the moment that things look a little down, all of a sudden racial issues don't matter to you, right? See, because what you are not going to do, and at least me as an African American, as a black male who has seen this over and over and over and over and over again, what you will not do, to be quite blunt, as another white progressive, is use our issues. Because see, in the primary, especially in the Southern Firewall, black votes matter. So all of a sudden, everybody wants to talk about black issues. See, Bloomberg has been a person who was in contention for this race, but not until he was a threat to Bernie Sanders did anybody care about stop and frisk. But all of a sudden, I saw Krystal get like 20,000 likes on her tweet for saying the same thing black men and black women in the same space have been saying for, I don't know, years, but at least at the start of this election. At least that. So, as a black man, I am not going to let you, as another white progressive who pretended to be an ally of POCs in general, black people included, by touting their support for Bernie Sanders, touting how bad Joe Biden has treated them, touting how bad Bloomberg has treated them. And then when chips get down, you need the white suburban vote from the fake indigenous woman. So all of the sudden, the indigenous people who Elizabeth Warren threw under the bus after she took on their identity and the benefits that came from the pain of their plight. Now it's, we need Warren, fuck the indigenous Americans that she screwed over, that she mimicked, that she wouldn't even apologize to, that we're recently finding out that she got arrested. So because the indigenous vote cannot sway the election in one way or another for the candidate of your choice, the indigenous people who Elizabeth Warren has thrown under the bus no longer matter. Or those women who left Elizabeth Warren's campaign because they felt like props that were being put up and not there to be taken seriously. That's 100% true. See, I'm not even as mad at the suggestion. If you want to make an argument, like a legitimate, like strategic argument, I'm not even going to argue against that. It's a stupid strategy, by the way. It's a stupid strategy. Like, I don't even got to get into it. I'm sure me and the fam later are going to get into all of that. Like, because it's stupid. It really is. However, with that being said, we don't even have to talk about the strategy part to acknowledge that, no, you do not get to, as a white progressive, as a white commentator, as a white an analyst, whatever you want to call it, you are not going to do this shit again. You are not going to throw the people of color, the black people, the indigenous people, the Latino people of this country, the Arab, the Muslim, y'all not going to throw us under the bus the moment that we cannot benefit your favorite white savior anymore. That is not about to happen again. I said this the other day on Twitter, and I wasn't even referring to Krystal whenever I said it, but the situation fits here nonetheless. I said the other day on Twitter that it's crazy to me how white people, progressives specifically, will talk about black issues, they'll be out there singing old slave hymns if it'll get their guy elected. But when it's time to invite the people or elevate the people who actually are in the same space, they're in the same space, you know who they are. They're black people, actual black people. Okay, I'm not talking about go find the loudest Sean King you can get and put them, elevate them, because you know what time it is. When it's time to go cape for the white establishment, Sean King gonna jump right on that damn ship and be accepted and championed just as easy as any other white person. So let's be clear. When you do that, you then will, if we're lucky, you'll bring us in just to talk about that one issue. If we're lucky. But after that, for the most part, we don't even get brought in to talk about those issues. They have other white progressives come in and talk about how bad Bloomberg is for black people. And then, after we are no longer of use to them, after we cannot sway the vote one way or another in a particular state, when we cannot sway the vote one way or another in the general election, all of a sudden, we are unimportant. We don't get invited from the spaces. In fact, we get excluded from those spaces and those conversations. Our people, whether it be black, whether it be indigenous, whether it be Latino or indigenous Latino specifically, whether it be Muslim, Arab, Desi, whatever, the moment that we are of no use to you, we are spit out. Why do you think that Obama it's almost like he had to. He actually did not mention the fact that he was black for the entire 2008 campaign. Not one time. Why do you think that is? I wish I could remember what the technical name of it is, but it's basically something, it's like, I think it's called central something theorem. And I wish I could remember, but it's basically a term that describes the fact that after the primary, because of the very specific demographics that you have to win over to win the Democratic primary, and the very specific demographics you have to win over the Republican primary, that every candidate moves center. Now, when you move center, just because of what we know about political history and ideology, if you move center, by definition, you are moving away from the very same marginalized demographics who got you elected. Obama championed indigenous people and then threw indigenous people under the bus. Warren stole their identity. Harvard bragged about how we have our first Native American woman. Look at the high cheekbones. And so, because the Native Americans do not have a voice in independent media, because the Native Americans do not have a voice on the Bernie Sanders campaign, because the Native Americans cannot sway this election in one way or another, at least in such a dominant way that could just hand Bernie Sanders the nomination, all of a sudden, what Elizabeth Warren did to them does not matter to you. It's about strategy and it's about winning at all costs. Ladies and gentlemen, how does that make us any different than Joe Biden? How does that make us any different than Hillary Clinton and the rest of the neoliberals that we are trying to fight? Please explain this to me. That is an insult. And I know people are like, well, some people may be like, well, you're not indigenous. Why do you care so much? One, because it doesn't matter. You should be just as mad regardless of what ethnicity you are. But as a black person, I know what it is like to be erased the moment that you are no longer of use to white people. It doesn't matter what ideology you are. I don't know why people have not figured this out yet. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. It doesn't even matter if you're Green Party, Libertarian Party. It doesn't matter if it's the corporate world, politics, or sports. The moment that you are a minority and you are no longer of use to the white elite, liberal, progressive, or otherwise, this is what happens. Sometimes it's on purpose. Other times it's on accident. And I don't believe that Krystal is being nefarious here, but that is my point. White progressives are so goddamn tone deaf. They have gotten so used to just saying what they want and doing what they want and then getting what they want as a result of the movement that started in 2015. And they've been unchecked and they've been unchallenged because they get to hide behind their massive following, and people will forgive them because at least, hey, but they talked about black issues at one time. They talked about those black issues at one time. It's not okay, Krystal. It's not okay. And But this is the reality. Strategy, it's strategy above all else, right? But this is the reality of the situation. You are actually suggesting that Bernie take on this woman who has this type of baggage. Like I said, we don't have to talk about the rest of the strategy. That's a different conversation that we'll have later on the day, I'm sure. But you're suggesting that Bernie take on the woman who faked being Native American to go against Donald Trump? After y'all been calling that man racist for the last 2 years, 3 years? Y'all been throwing every type of slur, of innuendo that suggests he hates all other races outside of white people equally. So your solution, your grand idea to get Bernie Sanders in office is to put up the fake to put up Rachel Dolezal against Donald Trump. You want to put up the author of the book Pow Wow Chow against Donald J. Trump. But here's the thing. It didn't even cross Krystal's mind that would get brought up by Donald Trump, most likely, when she made that suggestion. It probably didn't. And that's the problem. That's the problem. It didn't cross Krystal's mind one time. Like, she didn't even bring that up as a potential negative when she was pitching this. She acknowledged some problems with it. Sagar, by the way, kind of brought the show back to, their senses in that discussion, but she didn't even think about that. Why? Because the indigenous vote cannot help them anymore, at least not right now. The narrative of indigenous people cannot be used inside the Democratic Party to attack one person or the other. And therefore, it doesn't even cross their mind. Hell, the idea that Warren stole the identity of the indigenous people years ago, that idea has been of little concern to white progressives for the last year and a half. It has not offended them at all. It's like I said, do I think it's on purpose? No. But yes, you can attribute this to the same exact thing, the same reasons that Tulsi Gabbard can be erased, because they all care about people of color. And I heard people saying, now Bree Joy Gray is different. Bree's the national press secretary for Bernie, but I also know personally that she loves Tulsi. She has a job to do, and she even makes sure to advocate for Tulsi when she can. But Krystal, for example, is one of the ones that, why are you erasing Latinos in Iowa? Why are you erasing the Latinos in Nevada? Why are you erasing Latin Americans? Why? Because their votes were going to go to Bernie? So that's the only time it matters, when they can sway votes for Bernie. But once again, Krystal, as you were talking about how much it matters that we have diversity in our elections, we have a Polynesian woman, we have an Asian Pacific Islander, Samoan from Hawaii, a woman, 38 years old, indigenous woman, ironically enough. I didn't hear about you talking about how she's been erased lately. You haven't been up in arms about that. I know you used to be. It looked like you used to say that. It's saddening to know that this is a reality. Like I said, I don't even necessarily blame Krystal. That's what's bad. What is Krystal doing that is different from 98% of the other white progressives in the independent media? It's the norm ladies and gentlemen. It is not like she is breaking orthodoxy. That is my point. That is why I say from the beginning, Krystal has a lot of, she had gained my respect, her and Sagar both, for various reasons, because of all the things that she has done positively for the progressive movement. But that does not erase her racial blind spots. That does not erase her implicit biases. It is not like, just because she has my respect does not mean that I will ignore those realities. Because when I saw somebody brought up Kim Iverson, for example, out of all these great people that you have brought on, you've brought on Kyle Kalinske, you know, you've brought on Jimmy Dore several times. That's cool. Kim Iverson, you don't want to bring me on for whatever reason, Krystal. That's fine, because I did get the offer from Sagar, so it's not like Krystal was the one who invited me on. But why haven't you invited? You know, women of color are so important to you. Why hasn't Kim Iverson been offered a spot? When I know for a fact she at one point was getting more views than you guys. So I know y'all that she was on your map. Is it because she was one of Tulsi Gabbard's surrogates? Because that's what it seems like. But she's a woman of color too. And it seems like because the black man, now I don't know, like I said, I don't believe Krystal had anything to do with keeping me off. That's not what I'm saying. But the black man who's a Tulsi Gabbard surrogate and the Vietnamese woman who's a Tulsi Gabbard surrogate, cool. Like I said, you want to not bring me on because I don't have that check mark and I only have 40,000 subscribers? Fine. But what's the excuse for Kim? Kim has 200,000 subscribers and she formerly had a syndicated radio show that got more listens than The Hill's entire YouTube channel at one point. Kim was also a surrogate for Tulsi Gabbard at one point. So basically, it looks like, optically, that you were doing to us what the DNC did to Nina Turner. Because they didn't want it to look like there were black women and black people supporting Bernie Sanders at the convention. They stopped Nina Turner from being able to endorse Bernie Sanders in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, they made it look like Hillary Clinton had the Harlem Globetrotters, you know, the whole black what's the MLB called? The Black League. The Negro League. They had all of Motown out there. I mean, they had Hillary Clinton looking like she was a regular Bill Clinton. Like, and so we get to Tulsi, and whenever it was for Bernie, because you let Tulsi speak, which is why I said I'm appreciative of this. But when it gets to Tulsi, and it's time to show, yeah, Bernie's not the only one with black support, with minority support, with diverse support amongst men and women, amongst veterans, amongst former mainstream. Krystal used to be technically part of the mainstream, but on the radio side with syndicated radio show that she gave up. Kim, my apologies. Kim was on a syndicated radio show. Kim gave up a six-figure income to do indie media because she just could not stand what was being done to Bernie Sanders in 2016. Very similar to Tulsi, right? And so I know for a fact that she was at least aware that I was a surrogate for Bernie, or that I am a surrogate for Bernie Sanders. She's known this for months. I know for a fact that this is true. And I imagine that she is at least quite aware of who Kim Iverson is, because she's just been that popular on YouTube. And I don't think that Krystal, once again, was blackballing us, per se. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is there is this implicit bias that if we cannot use minorities to our advantage for our message, because like I said, it was Sagar who invited me. I don't think he would have a problem with me saying that. Sagar is the conservative Republican who also happens to be the person of color between the two. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think it's coincidence. I'm going on a show to speak for Tulsi and then talk about the election on Saturday. I'm going on Sirius XM. I'll let you all know the channel, by the way, so you can tune in if you have Sirius XM. But I've been invited onto popular shows, but they're usually by black people or people of color. That's usually and Lee Camp. Shout out to Lee Camp. And Jimmy's invited me on. I've been on Jimmy's show before too. But Lee's had me on multiple times. So like I've been on very popular shows before, but I've always almost exclusively been invited on these shows by black people or people of color, with the exclusion of the other two I just talked to you about. Kim talked the other day about being included. There's no reason that how does a presidential candidate who has a surrogate that has over 200,000 subscribers and is a former syndicated radio show host not get any time? Because remember, they love that TYT loved bringing Kim on to Aggressive Progressives with Jimmy when they thought that they could recruit her after Jimmy was about to leave. I'm just saying. So are we going to talk about the fact that the DNC is going to try and erase Tulsi? That's another conversation we're about to have. From the debates, all of a sudden they're talking about literally the moment Tulsi gets a delegate and it's announced, the moment that Samoa starts trending. Because everybody knows what comes next. Even all the mainstream media places were like, oh shit, did she just qualify for the debate stage? That was the type of conversation. The moment that this happens, they make an attempt to erase Tulsi. And I would love to see a video about this. The only reason because you have nothing to lose if your candidate has the best platform, has the biggest movement, is doing what he needs to earn votes, because Tulsi has to earn votes as well. Nothing in this race is giving, nothing in this race is promised, clearly. Not even election integrity. As a host, which, by the way, she might do a show about this. She might do one. I don't know, because I haven't watched it all day. So maybe she does. If she has, cool. That's great. But Tulsi's been erased multiple times, and Krystal hasn't said anything. Krystal, also, once again, this is a mainstream topic. This has been discussed over the last 24 hours pretty heavily. The DNC's communications director basically came out and said, we're about to just change the debate rules because we can. So this is a story. This is a story the type of story that you used to cover. But now that Tulsi's the only woman of color in the race, it's appropriate to erase her? What people continue to fail to realize is that there is actually bad strategy in bringing Warren on and great strategy in bringing Tulsi on. The truth of the matter is, the moment she says that Warren's a media darling, right? Yeah, Warren's a media darling, but there's a caveat to that. If she joins Bernie's campaign, there is no more darling. Remember how they thought? See this context. Remember historical context. I remember things sometimes, not all the time, but I remember things sometimes. And what I do remember is that when they thought Elizabeth Warren was an ally of Bernie Sanders, they actually began to drag her. Do y'all recall that? In 2019, when they believed that Warren was an ally of Bernie, they began to drag her. In other words, this idea that she will somehow still be the media darling, if she is given the VP nod to Bernie, or excuse me, by Bernie, come on. You think that's gonna? Nah. You don't even know how fast that issue of her indigenous co-optation, misappropriation. You have no idea how fast that's just going to come back up. All of a sudden, that story's going to leak right back out to the media. You were trying, I know you want Bernie to win, ladies and gentlemen, but here's the reality of the situation. You were trying to attach Bernie to possibly the second, really, probably top two most toxic people in the race when it comes to identity politics. Granted, some people have left. I mean, it's one thing to tell black voters you don't want their vote, like, or fire black police chiefs like Buttigieg. One thing to even put them in jail. Unfortunately, we've become all too used to the Bidens and the Bloombergs of the world. But we're a little bit new to this, Elizabeth Warrens and Rachel Dolezals. We're a little bit new to this idea that somehow you can just pretend to be indigenous American and then legitimately believe that you have a chance to be the president. Because if that was the Republican Party, Lord, baby, Jesus, oh my God. Oh my God. Elizabeth Warren would be ridiculed every single day of her life. Every single day she'd be chastised. Every single day the Democrats would trash her, drag her. I mean, it would be a nonstop rhetorical slugfest on behalf of the Democrats to the Republicans if Warren was a Republican. However, she is not anymore. She's a Democrat, and therefore we can forgive everything that she had done. And you want to attach that toxicity to the man you want to win and expect a victory? It's not smart. She doesn't. Do you know how much of her base, do you know how much of her base is actually part of Bernie's too? Like, she kind of stole his votes. She stole his votes. Warren stabbed this man in the back multiple times. You can't pretend like these issues. There's a reason she did it. She's establishment. She got love when she started being more establishment. When they thought she was going to align with Bernie, they took that. They refused to acknowledge her. And if they did acknowledge her, it was to smear her. But then when they saw, okay, she's moving a little bit away from Bernie. Oh, well, Warren, your plan's better in Medicare for all, right? Your Medicare for all is better. You know, you're basically like the heir apparent to Bernie, so why do we even need Bernie? That became the narrative. And it's still being used as a narrative today. Michael Gooder, thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you, Tulsi. I'm a Bernie supporter. Warren's a complete waste no matter what she does. Not voting Biden. 100%. 100% agree. Thank you very much for the super chat. So, yeah, man. But, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you all for tuning into that. I'll be going back on in a second to talk about Bloomberg dropping out. That's going to be fun. And then I'll probably take a break, and then I'll be down here with the fam. Y'all know we're still on the West Coast, so Pasta, Fiorella, and Johnny, they sleep until this daylight, like actual daylight outside. Like, it got to be hot. It's like 12 o'clock, so I'm an early bird. All right, people. With that being said, always remember more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.